Okay, so tell me what the next SolarNetOne is physically going to look like. You know, you have that machine that you just put Sleep Freak on and Gatekeeper on. It's going to be that, right? In a case or what?
Kind of. That really doesn't have enough horsepower to do the full job. But what I just built was a complete stack that goes from satellite uplink to authentication mechanism and billing interface if necessary to wireless distribution. All that can be run off like a 30, 40 watt solar panel and maybe a 20 amp hour battery, and it can just go anywhere, and there's internet like just right there. And that's a very handy tool in itself, because it's not really a full SolarNet system, it's actually part of the subsystem. But I've been doing the billing interface and that inside the main SolarNet server, and there's better uses for that, I think. So I broke that one function, that SQL server, that PostgreSQL server, and the web interface to that. I broke that out onto a separate board that only is going to consume 3 watts. So that's all that really needs to do. Now, when we're talking about the SolarNet server architecture itself, that little board doesn't really have enough horsepower. Here's what will. The TI OMAP 5, if we can get that in a similar configuration on that board, that would be just perfect. And then, once we have that additional clock speed, number of cores per board, and memory per board, what we can do is then really start to cluster those boards together so that they become a completely scalable solution.
Okay, so that board isn't...
That board as a node is great. That board has a complete server.
No, what I said was that board isn't built yet. That has to be designed and built.
Yeah, not really. That's what we're looking at now is an A10 All-Winner, which is a very nice chip. Okay, I like it. It does the job. It does several jobs very well. It's proven that it can run a webmail, DNS, SSH server, IPv6 router, all on 3 watts without choking at all, without having a problem at all in providing that function. It's proven that it can run
Girls Windows.
It's proven that it can run a heavy-duty SQL server and wireless authentication without a problem. And it can run any kind of load like that. That load's going to scale out. So what we need to do is be able to migrate those processes, that load, across multiple nodes of these boards that are just sitting there jacked into a 5-volt rail. I don't really like the USB power plug. I cut that up. I put it into a 5-volt rail coming out of a regulated power supply that runs off my solar array. I don't like the lack of voltage regulation on board. I don't mind paying a little extra to make sure that my 4 to 6 volts that I'm going to be handing it off of 6-volt battery, or 4 to 7 volts as the case may be, is not going to cause a problem for that board. So I want some onboard regulation for that. But once that's done, then we need to look at maybe something different than a barrel connector too, maybe a 2-pin edge connector or something that we can just kind of slide into a bus.
Okay, so as far as...
The OMAP 5 has more cores and it's more horsepower per watt. That's why I want to go
As far
with
as the
OMAP 5.
next generation SolarNet, then we're not ready just like the next time somebody orders to just ship that. It has to be...
No, I can ship the wireless access solution tomorrow. Complete, done and done. And yeah, that goes into a little case. Probably the best way to do that, honestly, is just to get a 3D printer and print off the cases as we need them.
So that's wireless access with no billing?
No, that's wireless access with billing.
Okay, but no overnight service. Is that right?
No overnight service. No, there's a battery there.
Oh, okay.
And a
so
charge
it's
controller.
just it's not the terminal server.
That's right. It's the wireless component broken out of the terminal server, completely broken out into a discrete access point, billing card, if you will, billing board.
Okay,
it's
so
just a
does
little
anybody
box.
else have that?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody
pretends
has
to have
that, but not like
stored.
as well as I have it. I mean,
Because okay, and how many watts did you say again?
the whole thing will run on about 8 to 10 watts, somewhere around there.
And is that like one of those rollouts?
That's less than one of those rollouts. One of those rollouts is more than enough, and I really like to oversize the power supply when I can to make sure that I get 5.9. So one of those rollouts is perfect for that job.
Okay, so
And the whole thing can go in a box and be deployed, you know, like at will in emergency situations in the States too. So if we have a hurricane that busts up Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, any of that, we can have these and just drop them in, connect them to the existing HughesNet, and now we have emergency comms with some reasonable authentication and security on it.
Okay, and so there's a little bit extra room for power, so if that in that scenario you could like have a little upsell or a little extra a drop line to plug in your cell phone, something like that, or no?
Well, what you got to understand
Or a
is
light.
that your average cell phone in its normal operation is going to use about as much power as my billing system. That's how much we've pared it down.
Okay.
So when the cell phone is charging its battery, it can actually draw 10 watts, you know, 2 amps and 5 volts. So that's not really a solution for that.
Okay, but what about a light? Could you put a light with
I
it?
can absolutely put a light with it. I could put a light that'll draw 1.5 watts, and we can do it on the same battery and
0.9 gigawatts.
panel as we specified. Yeah, 1.81
And how
gigawatts
much-
there, Myra.
How many lumens would that be?
How many lumens would that be?
1 gigawatts.
Well, I don't know that. Ah!
The crazy
It's about a
scientists
220
said
lumen bulb that we can run on that. Okay,
Okay,
Back
how
to the
many,
Future.
and we can
How
probably
bright
run,
would that
we
be?
can probably run 3
for
or
real?
4 of those.
Like compared to a street light.
Compared to a street light, it wouldn't be that bright. Compared to be a regular, pretty nice desk lamp, yeah.
So
I mean, I've got videos of them. I've showed them off. You know, they're
it'd be enough that. Okay, and there's a battery too. You say?
of course, there's got to be a battery.
And
in the
this
stack.
can go like on a tower, like a cell phone tower.
Yeah, the whole thing could go on the tower if necessary.
So we could put one of these.
Just in a box.
I mean,
There's really no heat problem with the board, so we got to hit the BP thingy here.
okay. I'm
We
gonna
need
turn
some
this
milk.
off.